Thank you for listening. This course was created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional podcasts, books, newsletters, and cool merchandise await. Let's get started. External assurance has emerged as a crucial pillar in the evolution of responsible artificial intelligence. While internal governance provides important safeguards, it often lacks the independence needed to inspire full confidence among regulators, customers, and the general public. Independent oversight adds credibility by subjecting an organization's claims of fairness, privacy protection, and accountability to external scrutiny. This process reassures stakeholders that governance practices are not simply self-reported but verified by neutral third parties. In high-risk sectors such as healthcare, finance, or government services, external assurance is increasingly being anticipated as a requirement rather than a choice. It complements internal efforts by filling in gaps, validating practices, and providing a broader perspective informed by industry standards. In this way, external audits transform responsible AI from an internal policy into a practice that carries legitimacy in the eyes of society. Different types of external assurance are beginning to shape the landscape of AI governance. Independent audits by third-party firms provide detailed evaluations of systems, identifying compliance gaps and risks. Certification programs run by standards bodies, such as ISO, offer recognizable seals of approval that can be communicated to regulators and customers alike. Regulatory reviews and inspections represent a more formal layer of oversight, with governments directly assessing whether systems align with laws and regulations. Industry consortia also contribute by setting benchmarks, offering shared frameworks for evaluation, and pooling expertise across organizations. Each of these assurance models adds value in different ways, and many organizations will need to engage with multiple types simultaneously. Together, they form a growing ecosystem of accountability that expands the reach of responsible AI practices. The scope of AI audits typically extends across several critical domains. Fairness and bias measurement is often central, ensuring that systems do not disproportionately disadvantage particular demographic groups. Privacy and data protection compliance are also key, as regulators demand assurance that personal information is handled securely and in accordance with laws. Security and robustness assessments examine whether systems can withstand adversarial attacks or perform reliably under stress. Governance and accountability structures are reviewed to confirm that oversight mechanisms are in place and functioning effectively. By addressing this wide scope, external audits go beyond narrow technical checks to evaluate the organizational ecosystem in which AI operates. This holistic approach ensures that responsibility is woven into every layer of the system, from code to culture. Audit methodologies vary but typically involve a combination of technical and organizational reviews. Sampling system outputs allows auditors to test for bias or inconsistencies across different groups. Reviewing documentation and policies provides insight into whether governance practices are formally established and followed. Technical testing of models, such as stress testing or red teaming, probes the resilience and safety of the system. Interviews with responsible staff add another dimension, offering auditors an understanding of how principles are applied in practice and whether accountability is embedded in the organization's culture. This mix of methods ensures that audits capture both the what and the how of responsible AI, what outcomes systems produce, and how those outcomes are governed. The benefits of external assurance are significant for organizations seeking to strengthen their responsible AI posture. Independent validation builds stakeholder trust, reassuring customers and regulators that commitments to fairness and transparency are more than internal promises. Audits also provide a readiness advantage, ensuring that organizations are prepared for evolving regulatory demands. The process often uncovers gaps in governance or technical practice that might otherwise go unnoticed, enabling proactive remediation. Assurance also helps organizations benchmark themselves against peers, identifying areas where they lead or lag in responsible AI maturity. Taken together, these benefits show that external audits are not simply a regulatory burden, but a strategic tool for building resilience, credibility, and competitive advantage in a rapidly evolving field. Despite their value, external audits present real challenges. the resource and cost burdens can be significant, particularly for smaller organizations with limited budgets. There is also a risk that audits devolve into superficial checkbox exercises, producing reports that look reassuring but fail to engage deeply with systemic risks. Confidentiality concerns arise when auditors require access to sensitive data or proprietary models, creating tension between transparency and intellectual property protection. Finally, variability in auditor expertise means that not all external reviews are equally rigorous or credible. These challenges highlight the need for careful design of audit processes, as well as the importance of aligning them with established standards to ensure consistency. Without addressing these hurdles, external assurance risks losing the very credibility it is meant to provide. The regulatory landscape for external audits of artificial intelligence is evolving rapidly. Many governments are moving toward mandates that require independent validation of AI systems, particularly in high-risk applications such as healthcare, finance, and law enforcement. Sector-specific rules are already appearing, with regulators demanding assurance that systems meet established thresholds for fairness, transparency, and privacy. International efforts are also underway to harmonize requirements, reducing fragmentation across jurisdictions and creating common standards for global markets. Third-party certifications are gaining recognition, providing organizations with a way to demonstrate compliance that is trusted across borders. This trend reflects a broader shift. Assurance is no longer seen as optional or reputational, but as a regulatory expectation. Organizations that prepare early will be better positioned to navigate this increasingly complex environment. Alignment with standards provides the scaffolding for credible external assurance. International frameworks, such as those developed by ISO and IEEE, are shaping expectations by defining principles and practices for responsible AI. OECD guidelines have also influenced global policy, emphasizing fairness, transparency, and accountability. Industry codes of conduct add sector-specific detail, while risk management frameworks provide tools for integrating AI oversight into broader enterprise systems. External auditors often use these standards as benchmarks, ensuring evaluations are consistent and defensible. For organizations, aligning with standards has dual benefits. It demonstrates commitment to global norms and prepares systems for regulatory and market scrutiny. By embedding standards into governance, organizations reduce uncertainty and enhance the credibility of their AI assurance efforts. Documentation plays a central role in preparing for audits. Model cards and system cards provide structured summaries of how AI systems are trained, tested, and deployed, offering auditors clear evidence of governance. Records of monitoring activities and incident responses show how organizations track performance and address issues over time. Policies and governance frameworks must also be documented, demonstrating that oversight is formalized rather than informal. Version control ensures that audit trails are maintained, allowing auditors to verify how systems evolved and whether risks were addressed. Strong documentation practices transform audits from reactive exercises into continuous demonstrations of accountability. For organizations, these records serve as both compliance artifacts and valuable internal tools for improving governance. Audit readiness practices help organizations avoid being caught unprepared. Internal pre-assessments simulate external reviews, identifying gaps before auditors arrive. Regular reviews of documentation ensure that records are accurate and up to date, rather than hastily assembled under pressure. Mock audits provide practice in responding to auditor questions and demonstrating evidence of compliance. Training staff in audit literacy builds confidence and ensures that responsible parties understand both expectations and processes. These practices transform audits from stressful events into routine checkpoints, integrated into organizational rhythms. Audit readiness is ultimately about building resilience, enabling organizations to demonstrate responsibility consistently rather than scrambling to prove it episodically. Continuous assurance models represent the future of oversight. Instead of point-in-time audits that provide only a snapshot, Organizations are moving toward ongoing evaluation. Integration with monitoring dashboards allows evidence to be generated in real time, providing auditors with a dynamic view of system performance. Real-time assurance enables issues to be flagged and addressed before they escalate, offering stronger protection for stakeholders. Continuous models also provide more authentic signals of trust, since they demonstrate that governance is a living process rather than a staged event. As AI systems become more complex and adaptive, continuous assurance will likely become essential, offering regulators, customers, and the public a more reliable basis for confidence. Cross-functional roles are indispensable in preparing for and managing external audits. Compliance teams coordinate readiness, ensuring that policies and processes align with standards and regulations. Technical staff provide the evidence auditors need, supporting tests of model performance, security, and robustness. Legal teams manage disclosure, balancing transparency with confidentiality obligations and intellectual property protection. Leadership plays an essential role, engaging directly with auditors to demonstrate accountability at the highest levels. These roles must work in concert, as external assurance demands evidence from multiple parts of the organization. Cross-functional collaboration ensures that audits are comprehensive, consistent, and credible. It also reinforces the message that responsible AI is not the responsibility of one team, but of the entire enterprise. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Metrics for assurance effectiveness provide a way to measure whether external audits are genuinely improving organizational practices. One key indicator is the number of findings resolved over time, showing how quickly and thoroughly issues are addressed. Improvement trends across audit cycles reflect whether organizations are learning from past reviews and raising their standards. Stakeholder trust can also serve as a metric, measured through customer surveys, regulator feedback, or investor confidence. Alignment with external benchmarks, such as industry standards or peer comparisons, adds another layer of accountability. These metrics transform assurance from a compliance checkbox into a continuous improvement process, helping organizations evaluate whether external oversight is producing meaningful results. Without metrics, audits risk becoming symbolic. With them, they become tools for growth and accountability. Transparency to stakeholders is a natural extension of external assurance. Sharing audit results responsibly, whether in summary reports, sustainability disclosures, or customer communications, builds trust and demonstrates openness. Reporting commitments in environmental, social, and governance frameworks increasingly include AI practices, making assurance part of broader corporate responsibility narratives. Customers gain confidence when they see organizations willing to disclose results and clarify remediation steps. Providing clarity on how issues are being resolved turns audits from abstract evaluations into tangible demonstrations of accountability. Of course, transparency must balance openness with confidentiality, but erring on the side of responsible disclosure strengthens legitimacy. For stakeholders, the difference between a closed and an open organization often lies in how transparently it communicates about oversight. Scaling audit programs is essential as organizations manage multiple AI systems across different risk categories. Prioritization ensures that high-risk systems, those affecting safety, civil rights, or critical infrastructure, receive the most intensive external reviews. Tiered audit intensity models allow less risky systems to be reviewed with lighter processes, conserving resources without sacrificing rigor. Automating evidence collection processes, such as logging system performance or bias metrics in real time, reduces preparation burdens and improves consistency. Centralized governance helps coordinate audits across departments, ensuring lessons learned in one area inform practices in another. Cost-effectiveness is always a challenge, but scaling strategies ensure that assurance programs remain sustainable, even as adoption grows. In this way, organizations build a balanced approach that is both thorough and practical. Ethical implications are inseparable from external assurance. One key risk is ethics washing, where organizations use superficial audits or certifications to signal responsibility without making substantive changes. To avoid this, organizations must commit to disclosing meaningful findings, not just positive highlights. Independence of external reviewers is another ethical obligation. Audits lose credibility if reviewers are financially or structurally tied too closely to the organizations they evaluate. Selective transparency, sharing only favorable results, undermines trust and contradicts the very purpose of assurance. Ethical external audits therefore demand honesty, independence, and completeness. They remind us that assurance is not a public relations exercise, but a tool to safeguard fairness, accountability, and public trust in AI systems. Future directions point toward a growing ecosystem of AI-specific certification schemes. These programs will give organizations formal recognition for meeting rigorous fairness, transparency, and safety standards, much like existing cybersecurity certifications. International recognition of assurance programs will help create consistency across borders, reducing the challenges of operating in diverse regulatory environments. As AI expands into multimodal and generative systems, assurance practices will need to evolve to cover new risks, from content authenticity to misuse and disinformation campaigns. Convergence with cybersecurity audits is also anticipated, as both fields share concerns around resilience, privacy, and trust. The future of assurance is one of growth, specialization, and integration, reflecting the increasing centrality of AI in global economies and societies. Organizational responsibilities in external assurance extend beyond compliance. Companies must establish audit readiness programs that prepare teams, processes, and documentation for external review. Full cooperation with auditors is essential, ensuring that reviews are meaningful rather than performative. Transparency in documenting corrective actions demonstrates that organizations take findings seriously and are committed to closing gaps. Internal practices must also align with external standards, reducing the risk of discrepancies or superficial compliance. Ultimately, responsibility lies not only in passing audits, but in treating them as opportunities for learning and improvement. Organizations that embrace external assurance as part of their culture of accountability will find themselves better prepared for regulatory demands and stakeholder expectations alike. Practical takeaways highlight why external assurance is such an important extension of responsible AI. Independent validation strengthens credibility, especially in sectors where public trust is fragile or where regulations impose strict accountability. External audits do not replace internal governance. Rather, they complement it by providing an independent lens that can uncover blind spots. Documentation and readiness practices ensure that audits run smoothly and yield meaningful results. Transparency to stakeholders builds trust, showing that an organization is serious about addressing risks rather than hiding them. These practices turn assurance into more than compliance. They transform it into a trust-building mechanism. Organizations that internalize these takeaways can use external audits not only to mitigate risk, but also to differentiate themselves as leaders in responsible AI. The forward outlook points toward a future where external audits and certifications become mandatory in high-risk AI contexts. Governments are expected to require independent reviews for systems used in areas such as healthcare, financial services, and law enforcement, where lives and rights are directly affected. Certification pathways will multiply, offering organizations structured ways to demonstrate their alignment with global standards. Convergence of global regulations will make it easier to scale assurance across borders, reducing fragmentation while raising the baseline of accountability. Continuous assurance models will grow, replacing periodic checks with real-time validation and monitoring. This outlook suggests that assurance will shift from being an optional advantage to an essential part of AI deployment, shaping both compliance and competitive landscapes. The key points of this episode consolidate the central themes of external assurance. Audits assess fairness, privacy, security, and governance, ensuring that AI systems align with both legal requirements and ethical expectations. Benefits include stronger trust, regulatory readiness, and identification of governance gaps. Yet, challenges such as cost, confidentiality, and auditor expertise cannot be ignored. Standards from organizations like ISO, IEEE, and OECD provide the foundation for credible assurance, while regulatory frameworks increasingly shape adoption. These key points show that external assurance is not a passing trend, but a critical mechanism for embedding accountability into AI systems. They frame assurance as both a safeguard and a signal, helping organizations prove that responsibility is more than rhetoric. Integration with governance ensures that external audits are not isolated events but part of a continuous system of accountability. Findings from audits should feed into enterprise risk management systems, linking AI oversight with broader organizational risk frameworks. Metrics tracked across audit cycles support ongoing improvement, showing whether corrective actions lead to measurable change. Leadership must remain accountable for addressing findings, ensuring that responsibility extends to the highest levels of governance. Transparency in reporting ties these practices back to stakeholders, reinforcing trust through openness. Integration is key. When external assurance is woven into governance systems, it becomes a driver of organizational maturity rather than an administrative burden. In conclusion, external assurance and audits play a pivotal role in responsible AI by adding independence, credibility, and trust to internal governance efforts. They highlight both strengths and gaps, creating opportunities for continuous improvement while demonstrating accountability to regulators and stakeholders. Challenges such as cost and confidentiality can be mitigated through standards, transparency, and careful preparation. As regulations tighten and global standards converge, external audits will become an integral part of AI governance, especially in high-risk sectors. Organizations that embrace assurance not just as compliance but as a cultural practice will be better positioned for resilience and leadership. Looking ahead, the next step is to examine culture and change management, exploring how organizations can embed responsible AI into their values and everyday practices. Thanks for tuning in to Bare Metal Cyber, your trusted source for cybersecurity educational materials, news, and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.